Hi there. Welcome to the We Interrupt This Broadcast monthly roundup.
This is your roundup of what is happening in the Australian screen industry this month.
I'm Julie Eckersley.
And I'm Kirsty Stark. And between us, we've been involved in hundreds of hours of screen stories, myself as a crew member and producer.
And me as a producer, actress, and a commissioner. We're here to bring the industry together, start a conversation, and most importantly, keep you up to date on everything that's going on.
Make sure you subscribe to keep getting alerts on new episodes. And let's get into it. Hi, Julie.
Hi, Kirsty.
It's September already, and you have wrapped.
Yes, finished shooting the feature I've been working on, and now it's been announced in Deadline, so I can publicly say that I've been working on a horror for Princess Pictures called Stake Out, starring Danny Houston, Brendan Thwaites, and Charlie Fraser, and directed by the China Brothers.
How's it gone?
Gee, it's been a great shoot. We talked a couple of months back right at the beginning about just respect for crews. I mean, that is absolutely increased. Wow, our crews just work so hard. They go up against it. They give 110%. I just was so in awe of the incredible crew that we had on the project. And another thing that really struck me when I was listening to your interview with Jonathan Dutton from Screenwell, I was really looking at leadership, and I must say the China Brothers are such fantastic leaders in the directing role. They were so good at saying thank you to people and acknowledging the work that they were doing, and it really made a difference to how the crew felt. And it made me think, some of the stuff that we do around mental health is just saying thank you to people who are working really hard.
Yeah, I loved that conversation with Jonathan because it just reinforced how easy it can be to do the little things that matter, that turn into big things and create that culture on set that makes everyone feel much better about their job day to day.
Yeah, and I just did the psychosocial safety course that they've brought out, which was really helpful too. And I think one of the best things it does, it just reminds you to think about these things, this being an issue and something that we need to look at and we can get better at.
So if you haven't heard it, go and listen to the episode. Jonathan and Ben at Screenwell are doing incredible work trying to improve mental health and wellbeing outcomes across the industry as a whole. And it's really important that we all get on board.
That mental health outcome was also echoed in Sam's interview that you did about Scene, and her just saying the incredible pressure that, being a solo producer had on her.
She was talking about broken distribution models. Coming in as an outsider and looking at our industry and what we're doing with fresh eyes was quite eye-opening for her. And yeah, a lot of things are broken. A lot of systems are set up in a way where the individual does have to work excessively hard or sacrifice so many other aspects of their life in order to succeed in this industry. And I think that needs to really shift.
Yeah, I think even the factor of being a freelancer and the way that that can put financial pressure on, families and people who are responsible for providing for their families, particularly in a time like this where we're seeing such big changes and, compression in the industry, like that in itself is a factor. Hey, speaking of mental health, I loved seeing that you actually took a holiday. How hard is it to take a holiday in this industry?
I know. My family and I went overseas for a week, and this is the first time, I think, in my entire career where I've actually shut my laptop and left it home on a trip. It was really nice to just fully switch off.
Hard to do when you're freelancing, right? Because there's, the minute that you step away, there's things that need your attention, but kudos to you for doing that. We have got a lot to cover this episode. It's been a really busy month in the industry.
It has. And I think the big announcement that I want to start with is that Tropfest is back.
Such great news. Hooray, hooray, hooray. Do you know it was 2014 when Tropfest ended? And it was such a loss to the industry because that was a highlight of the calendar, right? And, if you're listening and you don't remember, like it used to be something that people worked towards, that people could launch their careers on. And it was that big night in Sydney when everyone would watch the films and the buzz of who the winner was going to be. So exciting that it's back.
And I never went to a Sydney Tropfest, but they had satellite events in Adelaide and we would go and we would watch the films. Coming through university at the time, we would look at those projects and it was aspirational to want to be one of those people one day. And it kickstarted so many careers.
So many careers. One of the things that's really clever about this incarnation is that it's 2.0. They're now in partnership with Stan and also in partnership with YouTube. So coming back to the conversations we've been having about short films not being a strategy just in themselves, this is the antidote to that. This is like absolutely be in Tropfest, get all that exposure, particularly within the industry, but then there are platforms for your work to go on, which I think is so exciting for us.
I think it's a real opportunity to build that connection back with audience and create a cultural moment for Australian film again, to have opportunities for audiences to engage in Australian film, to look at the next generation of filmmakers, to look back at the people who came out of Tropfest. So I really hope they're going to take that opportunity to share that history and connect it to what's being made in the feature and TV space now.
Absolutely, because Wilfred came out of Tropfest that became such a success in Australia and internationally. Emma Freeman, one of our leading directors, came out of Tropfest. Speaking of Emma, did you see how incredible those numbers were for her latest series, The Family Next Door?
Yeah, it's the most watched iView series of all time, 1.4 million viewers, I think, in the first week alone.
Unbelievable first week. And interestingly, the overnights were something 415, I think. But then those numbers have really moved to iView, which I'm sure the ABC must be thrilled with. So massive congratulations to everyone involved in The Family Next Door. That's a big win, but it really does show where the audiences are moving, right? And the other trend we saw this month is this continual re-emergence of cinema. Have you noticed that?
Absolutely, yeah. I was actually at the Adelaide Film Festival launch this week, and it was amazing to just be in a dark room with a bunch of people who love film and see all of these snippets of incredible auteur-driven works from around the world. When that cinema experience works, people love it.
Absolutely. And here in Melbourne, Mark Walker is getting ready to open a small independent cinema in Collingwood called Eclipse Cinema. We also saw A24 buying a cinema, buying the Cherry Lane Theatre, which they're kind of reinvigorating. So they're not just going to show films, they're going to have readings and one-night events and stars being there. So, is this something we're seeing, this move back to cinema? What do you think?
Yeah, I love it, especially in the conversation we had with Sam Jennings. That was her pitch to change the industry. How do we build a cinema or an audience space that, people can really engage with Australian films? I'm co-chair of the Mercury here in Adelaide, which is a training ground but also an independent cinema. And every event that we have, we try to add a conversation or something that elevates the watch a film experience. And I think we're seeing that more and more, and it's bringing people back.
It reminds me of that article in Puck that came out recently too about can Gen Alpha save cinema?
They found that 6 in 10 Gen Alpha young people prefer to watch films in a cinema than at home. So that's one of their social events. It's how they connect with friends. It's how they speak to their identity and their fandom.
And on the flip side, Auntie Donna have announced that they're going to launch a new streaming service in 2026. Gee, they are an impressive company, aren't they?
Yeah, this is really exciting. We've seen examples of similar platforms overseas, and for them to be bringing a dedicated comedy platform to Australia, it's just really looking at the future and where things are headed.
And a good callback to the interview we did with Georgia, who's the managing director of Haven't You Done Well. She had so many brilliant things to say. They're such a forward-thinking company, and highly recommend you go back and listen to that, and particularly to understand more of what they're doing and how they're innovating in this changing market. So we talked about the Netflix appointments last month, and sure enough, that announcement came out. Amanda Duthie, now the content director for ANZ, and Catherine Slattery is the content manager for ANZ. Really impressive women, both of them.
Absolutely. It's a loss for Stan. I'm sad that Amanda will no longer be in charge of that programming slate, but I'm so excited to see what she does at Netflix. She is just such a cinephile, and I think she'll commission some really amazing things.
Yeah, and of course, Catherine Slattery is moving from Matchbox Pictures and is a fantastic woman and very loved. So they're going to be a great team.
Yeah, I think so.
And a huge congratulations to Leanne Tonks too, who's been appointed the new Women in Film and Television chair. A fantastic organisation, do amazing things for women. And Leanne is a superstar producer. She's done so many great films, been in the industry for so long, and is really under the bonnet of what makes this industry tick. So I think she is an awesome appointment and really excited to see what she does in that role.
Yeah, me too. Cinefest Oz wrapped up earlier this month, and both major prizes went to South Australia, which I'm very excited about.
Yay, South Australia!
The $100,000 prize winner went to Songs Inside, a documentary directed by Shalom Armand. And Best Short Film was I'm the Most Racist Person I Know, directed by Leela Varghese, who is part of the Lesbian Space Princess team, and that is now in cinemas. So go and watch that incredible animation.
Also, we should recognise that Aquarius Films has closed after 18 years. And I think what there is to say here is, wow, what an incredibly successful 18 years. Angie and Polly have done so much they sort of launched out with Lion and their impact on that. But, even recently, Mixtape, Savage River, Love Me, The Other Guy. So they have been prolific, and 18 years is a pretty incredible success.
The official line is that they're going their separate ways, which could be the case, but I think it opens up a bigger conversation about these mid-sized independent Australian production companies and what the future looks like, especially while we're still waiting to get streaming quota legislation underway.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt that there are less commissions than ever. I mean, that's what the numbers are telling us. Obviously, we've seen that in the kids space and also in the drama space. And, audiences fragmented. They've gone to new places. But, it certainly is a time of transition, as we've talked about a lot, Kirsty. And hopefully that doesn't mean that there's more pressure on those mid-sized companies, but it is a possibility. Kirsty, did you see this month that Netflix has released an update to their AI guidelines? Is this the beginning of a slippery slope?
It could be. It feels like once Netflix says it's okay, then everyone else is likely to follow suit.
If you read through the guidelines, they're still quite controlled. So while you could have a piece of art in the background, you couldn't have a featured piece of art that was AI generated because of the risk of infringing copyright. But it certainly is an interesting step.
Yeah, instead of no AI, they've taken the step into AI under certain circumstances, and that really opens the gate for ambiguity.
And this is coming on the back of Ted Sarandos saying last month, I think, that they were also using it in some of their post processes. Interestingly, with Netflix, they've also now added a clipping device to their shows. So that is really smart.
Yeah, I saw this. So what you can do as an individual viewer is go in and save clips of any length from shows that you're watching and then share them with friends on social media or directly. So a fantastic marketing tool, really clever from their perspective to let fans share their experiences. Hello, thanks for listening. If you're enjoying the podcast, we would love you to subscribe and leave us a review so that we can get the word out to more and more people across the industry.
And in return, we're going to do all we can to keep bringing you a podcast that offers you great value and insights. By subscribing, you are helping us make this podcast sustainable. Thanks so much.
So the Emmys are underway in the US, and season 3 of Love on the Spectrum has picked up another 2 Primetime Creative Arts Emmys.
That's so fantastic for that show. Gosh, Australia really can bat above its weight in so many ways. I know we talk about Bluey a lot, but there are other really incredible Australian IPs that are doing unbelievable things around the world. And it's lovely for us all to remember that we can do that. We've got that in us.
And speaking of Australians having success on the world stage, I just want to shout out Team Cherry, who are the Adelaide-based company behind the international mega success hit game Hollow Knight Silksong. Have you heard about this? In the first 24 hours, it had 535,000 people playing simultaneously around the world.
So this is an Australian company, and they've had this 500,000 people playing in the first 24 hours.
Yeah, a company of 3 people based in Adelaide. They obviously work with a wider team than that. But yeah, the success that they've had and the fact that this game is so loved, I think is just incredible.
This comes back to our conversation last month too, Kirsty, about going, these are all the screen industry, and this success is the success of the screen industry. It's like, looking at the amazing Digital Circus and Glitch Productions and, the more we can embrace this new generation and new ways of storytelling, the more it gives us that feeling of being part of a really successful global movement, which is the Australian screen storytelling industry.
And I think more and more we're seeing people working in storytelling across game and films, immersive audience experiences. One of the directors of Team Cherry is Ari Gibson, who started in animated film production. One of his shorts, The Cat Piano, won the AFI back in 2009, I think. And the beautiful music on the score of the game is by Chris Larkin, who actually was our composer for Wastelander Panda, the first ever web series that I produced. So he's had an incredible rise as well.
I think you're right. I think we are seeing people more and more cross over between different platforms. And I also think we're all going to have to learn a few new skills to be able to do that. Again, coming back to this sustainability, how can you use those skills and go to the other platforms that are emerging?
At the end of the day, it's just creating emotional experiences for audiences, and there's so much crossover.
Yeah, as Jen Topping said, it's all audio visual storytelling. It's just, happening in a lot of different ways. So, we can be flexible in those skills. And when I moved as an actress from stage into television, it was like same, but different. I had to use those same acting skills, but use them in a new medium. And that's really similar to what a lot of us are doing now, going, yeah, I'm using my audio visual storytelling skills, but now I'm needing to learn them in different ways or apply them in different platforms. And I think part of that is also the scale up, scale down. Now I'm working on millions of dollars and now it's a smaller thing. And, this kind of flexibility of thinking.
The Screenwrites Cultural Fund recipients have just been announced. And Jessie Hughes, who was a podcast guest earlier in the year, will be running a generative AI masterclass designed to upskill women in the use of AI as part of one of those selected projects. So keep an eye out for that if you're in Sydney. There's going to be 30 women undergoing that training, and then an ongoing masterclass, which will be national.
Love this for Jessie. I know that was something she's really passionate about. We talked about it at different points and, she's got so much to share, and how great that there's 30 women who can get those skills in their hands and then decide how they want to use them.
And a couple of events coming up as well. SPA has put their call out for session ideas for Screen Forever 2026, and they've just announced their dates, which will be the 28th to the 30th of April. So put that in your diaries. And next week, AFTRS is hosting SPA's Generate conference in Sydney, which is the one-day ideas lab that they run, really looking at future trends and production.
Absolutely love the Generate conference. I went last year and I learnt so much from it. It really changed my thinking. They've got such an interesting lineup of guests. If you want to educate yourself, if you want to see where the opportunities are coming, and I think probably if you want to blow your mind a little bit, because that's what it did for me last year, it really opened my mind up to some new opportunities. It was a really exciting day, so I highly recommend attending.
If you're a creator, be aware that film entries for the ACTRA Awards are closing at the end of this month, the 29th, and TV and online entries on the 6th of October. So get your entries in and keep an eye out for applications for their Young Stars Award. That's the national youth casting call that they do, where they identify some of the amazing emerging talent from around the country.
Another great opportunity, the SPA Pitch on Demand closes on Wednesday, the 24th of September. So that is a fantastic opportunity to get your pitch in front of Apple and the Foxtel Group and Shudder. Lots of Australian screen stories coming out this month too on various platforms.
Yeah, a few that I'm excited about. Obviously, Lesbian Space Princess. Make sure you see that in a cinema. It is a great audience experience, and you'll hear the laughter and responses from different pockets of the cinema, depending on who's sitting where. Went Up the Hill from Causeway is also in cinemas that same day, 11th of September. And then the next day, Top End Bub comes out on Prime Video, that beautiful story from South Australia and the Northern Territory as well.
Also, Pasafaho, a fantastic film that I saw at MIF, will be out on September 14th. And Siebes, the TikTok series, is being released on September 15th and premiered last week in Melbourne.
Yeah, it's great to see a lot of vertical content now coming out of Australia and funded by Screen Australia. The other one, which I just watched, was Hoops, which is on Instagram and TikTok. And that's the story of a trans woman trying to get into the National Australian Basketball League.
Okay, so if you want to watch a series that's come out on TikTok, just for anyone who might not know, how do you actually go about finding it?
Just searching for their channel is generally the best place to start. So we'll put both of those in the show notes so that you can have a watch. And later in the month, we have Kangaroo in cinemas on the 18th, and Mystery Road Origin Season 2 is on the ABC on the 21st.
Big month. Go Australia.
On the production front, there's quite a lot going on in Victoria at the moment. Your project Stake Out has just wrapped, as well as The Dispatcher, which has also wrapped after 20 weeks of production. Dog Park has just been announced. That's a new Matchbox series for the ABC with Leon Ford and Celia Piccola, and their little promo was very cute. So looking forward to seeing that once it's been shot. There are also a couple of great children's series that were announced at the Australian Children's Content Summit, which was just held up in Coffs Harbour. It's great to see children's producers getting together, working to bring back some of that local production. So Happy House from Media World Pictures is an animated series being created in Victoria at the moment. And then Caper Crew is from Easy Tiger for the ABC, and that's being shot in New South Wales.
And Steve Jay's also been shooting, not just in Queensland where he normally does, but he's been shooting in New South Wales and also in Victoria. He is so prolific. It's amazing.
And then on the international front, I think it's worth mentioning Bunya Productions are doing a feature adaptation of the stage play Prima Facie starring Cynthia Erivo straight off the back of Wicked. And that's shooting in London, which is really exciting for an Australian company to be involved in that kind of co-production.
I saw the National Theatre live recording of that, and it is such a powerful work. It was absolutely a tour de force. Really incredible story.
And last little piece of exciting news, Bluey the movie has a release date. It's August 6th, but not until 2027, so we've got a little while to wait.
It's already in the diary. We love Bluey. Well, Australian screen industry, that about sums up our September. Of course, we've got South by Southwest happening in Sydney in early October. And Kirsty, you're going to be at the Sony Scenescape.
Yeah, I'm going to be on a panel on Saturday about the future of the industry with Stephen Corvini and Nick Collar. So that's going to be a great one. Hope you have a great month. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you in October.
Now back to your regular program. We Interrupt This broadcast is recorded on the unceded lands of the Bunurong people of the Kulin Nation and the Kaurna people of the Adelaide Plains, and we acknowledge them as the traditional custodians and first storytellers of these regions. Always was, always will be.